Hello.
Hallo,
Hola.
Bonjour.
Noa Zhong.
Bonjour.
I'm Kendra.
Mein Name ist Sarah.
Me llamo Sami.
And today we are going to be advocating for multicultural education.
What is multicultural education? I'm glad you asked. Let me elaborate. Multicultural education is a philosophical concept built on the ideals of freedom, justice, equality, equity, and human dignity. It values cultural differences and affirms the pluralism that students, their communities, and teachers reflect. It challenges all forms of discrimination in schools and society through the promotion of democratic principles of social justice.
As teachers, we want all of our students to feel comfortable and equally serviced in our classrooms. However, students of color and white students are often left to assume that whiteness is the norm. In a classroom, teachers do much of the modeling about what kinds of beliefs and attitudes are and are not acceptable. When teachers do not make including multiculturalism a priority in the classroom, students are left to assume that whiteness is the norm and is the only way. This does a huge disservice to students in countless ways, including going back to the very base of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The second tier of his pyramid is safety, and when students don't feel comfortable, safe, and cared about, they can never move past that need.
A great tool to gauge where a classroom or school is at in the process of becoming inclusive is to measure the curriculum against the stages James Banks and Peggy McIntosh describe. We can dig a little deeper into each of these stages to understand how to apply this theory to help us create an inclusive classroom. Stage 1 is simply the curriculum of the mainstream. This curriculum includes blatant and continual Eurocentric and male-centric views. By supporting this type of environment in a classroom, the teacher is hurting both the dominant cultured student and obviously the student of non-dominant cultures. Stage 2 is characterized by schools and teachers celebrating differences. The teacher shows an attempt to diversify the curriculum but still characterizes the non-dominant culture groups as the other. Integration is the next step in this process in which the teacher adds substantial materials and knowledge about non-dominant cultures into the curriculum. These new materials and information are still most likely coming from a Eurocentric, male-centered perspective. Stage 4 is considered structural reform. This means that new levels of understanding are formed from new perspectives, new voices, and new materials are woven into the curriculum seamlessly. The final stage of multicultural curriculum reform is stage 5, which includes social action and awareness. Important social issues are now included in the classroom curriculum, including ideas such as racism, sexism, and economic injustice. The textbook is regarded as only one source of information, not the primary one. Throughout our teaching and learning experience, we have classified most of our classrooms as at a stage 2 level. We often see schools participating in Black History Month or hosting an international festival. While these programs may show awareness of different cultures, there is still more work to be done to become seamlessly inclusive. How would you classify most of the classrooms you have been in? What stage would you say they're at? So, how can we get our classrooms to this final stage of multicultural curriculum?
Before classrooms can be inclusive, teachers must understand the practice of multicultural education and the implications of avoiding it. The challenge is to discover ways to expand the teacher's participation in cultural learning experiences. It is one thing for teachers to read about other cultures, but another altogether for them to become immersed in the cultural learning experiences. There is also something to be said about what it can do for a student when they see their teachers participating in cultural experiences that are important to them, such as Hmong New Year's celebrations.
If teachers avoid multicultural education, there are many implications that can negatively affect students. These implications include, but aren't limited to, not meeting the needs of all students. This means students are not prepared for a global economy, which is made up of a melting pot of cultures. Nor are the students prepared to be critically minded and ethically concerned citizens, making informed decisions and taking action to change the world. Avoiding multicultural education can lead to fatalistic views as well, where students don't believe they can change their world, so they do not try. This can lead to ignorance, fear, and disownership. If a safe, secure, nurturing environment is not created where all cultures are welcomed and respected, teachers will not be able to make connections with their students.
The growing disparity between the racial background of students who attend our nation's public schools and the teachers who educate these students often means that teachers have limited knowledge of their students' families or communities. Lawrence eloquently illustrates the necessity for multicultural education in this quote. No one can argue that the U.S. is becoming more and more diverse, which means our educational population is also. There is no clear-cut cultural group that makes up more than 50% of the population anymore. Diversification is happening in our schools now, and our teachers need to be prepared. With so many different viewpoints and cultures coming into a single classroom each day, it is crucial for teachers to work to close this gap of understanding in order to connect and make the curriculum meaningful for each student.
The more familiar and knowledgeable about other cultures educators become, the more they can enhance the cultural awareness and understanding that students need to encounter for the future and to enrich their lives.
This presentation is brought to you by Banks Approaches to Multicultural Curriculum Reform and J. Banks and C. Banks Multicultural Education Issues and Perspectives, and lots of other books by Lawrence Lee McIntosh and Our Minds.
Education is a human right for students of all cultures and backgrounds.